Okay, go.
I apologize. We're having some technical difficulties tonight, so I apologize for the delay in beginning. I'd like to call to order the Newington Town Council regular meeting of Tuesday, June 28th. The time is 7:10 p.m. If you would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to
the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
for all.
I'm gonna mute him.
All right, we will begin with the roll call, please.
Counselor Braverman. Counselor Braverman.
He is online.
Here. Deputy Mayor Budraco.
Here.
Here. Counselor Camillo.
Here.
Counselor Donahue.
Here.
Counselor Mankey.
Here.
Counselor Nagel.
Here.
Counselor Page.
I'm here and my power is intermittent in West Virginia, so I apologize if I'm in and out. Thank you.
Counselor Rada.
Here.
Mayor Del Buono.
Here.
Got their volume on their computer.
All right, everyone is present. We'll begin the meeting. The next item is the approval of the agenda. Counselor Mankey?
I just have one addition to the agenda, if I might. Under section 8, resignation and appointment, I'd like to add an appointment to the Central Connecticut Health District as item C.
Okay, 8C. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Rada. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Trying to lower hands, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Oh,
I could take my
I don't
hand
have
up.
co-host. If you could make me a co-host so I can control the attendees, please. Thank you. All right. All right, our next item is proclamations and awards. And this evening we do have a proclamation for July is National Recreation and Parks Month. And I will go ahead and read the proclamation. We have our Superintendent of Parks and Recreation with us as well. So I'll go ahead and read this in and we'll get this on the record and then we'll be able to discuss. Proclamation, NRPA, July is National Recreation and Parks Month. Whereas the Newington Parks and Recreation Department was founded in 1956 with the goal to make Newington a better place to live, work, and play. And whereas July is deemed National Recreation and Parks Month by the National Recreation and Parks Association. And whereas the Newington Parks and Recreation Department touches the lives of every single one of Newington's over 30,000 residents throughout their lifetime through programs, events, grounds maintenance, parks, and so much more. And whereas our mission is to bring business, education, and social services together to provide the best accessible programs, parks, facilities, and services to all people. And whereas the Newington Parks and Recreation Department has over 1,000 programs to offer to Newington residents each year that garner over 88,000 registrations. And whereas the department brings residents countless events throughout the year and has been awarded the very prestigious Program of Merit Award for their two largest events, the Life Be In It Extravaganza and Motorcycle Madness by the Connecticut Recreation and Parks Association. And whereas the Recreation Division accommodates over 80,000 visits annually to the Mortensen Community Center. And whereas the department has forged essential public-private partnerships with numerous organizations and businesses in Newington, Connecticut, and surrounding towns that help to make our events and programming possible. Now therefore be it proclaimed, the Newington Town Council recognizes the vital role that Parks and Recreation plays in their local community and joins with every resident of the great town of Newington to celebrate the outstanding Parks and Recreation Department's accessible programs and facilities. Dated in Newington, Connecticut, this 28th day of June, 2022, signed Beth Del Buono, Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Donahue. And we'll open it for discussion, counselors. Deputy Mayor Badreko.
Yes, I'd like to congratulate Bill DeMayo and his staff who work all year round to build, as I've heard him say, or I've heard them talk about, a strong, vibrant, and resilient community through all the events and activities that they offer to the town of Newington, all its residents from the youngest to the oldest. Things like this don't happen automatically. They don't happen overnight. It needs planning, financing, execution, and a lot of hard work. So I think it's very fitting that we take this time to celebrate our Parks and Recreation Department during this month of National Recreation and Parks Month, and to thank them for the contributions.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Counselor Menke.
Yeah, I would just echo Deputy Mayor Pacheco. I think Bill and his staff do a great job of making our parks accessible for everyone and putting on major events that bring the whole community together. So I would just thank them for their efforts.
Thank you. Any other counselors? I would just like to add my thanks and congratulations to our Parks and Recreation Department. It's nice to see that we were also recognized by the state for two of our programs, the Motorcycle Madness as well as Life Be In It. And you know, Bill DeMayo and his staff do an incredible job of making sure that the needs of every resident are met on some level through our department. So, you know, people oftentimes think of Parks and Recreation being for just the kids, but our Parks and Recreation Department makes sure that they're targeting each and every age level of our residents and making sure that everyone's individual needs are met in some way, shape, or form through our programming. And for that, I am very grateful. And I know our residents we get plenty of feedback from residents on our Parks and Recreation programs. So I truly appreciate the efforts of our Parks and Recreation Department. And I'm going to call the vote on this. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And I know we have our superintendent, Mr. DeMayo, on. Bill, do you want to say anything?
Sure, Mayor. Thank you so much. I'm just down the hallway. We're having the 150th anniversary movie night for the kids in the gymnasium. So we've got Elf playing right now.
Lovely.
But I do want to thank the mayor, the town council, and the town manager for their support over the years with the Parks and Recreation Department. Want to thank the civic groups and the businesses that have come forward and have developed public-private partnerships. And most of all, I want to recognize the staff that I get the honor and the privilege to lead. We have nothing but the best here, Parks, Recreation, and Cemeteries. I'm so proud of them. They work endless hours, day and night, 7 days a week. And for that, I am grateful for. Very, very happy. And I'd put them up against anybody in this state because they're such good, hard workers. I also want to take a minute because on a Facebook, we're getting killed on the 110 garden plots at Young Farm. I want to let everybody know, if I get this opportunity, Mayor, to say that yes, we have the well company is there presently. We've changed in a very expensive pump, and we've changed 4 wires. And now everything is set, but we need to wait 4 days for the chlorine and the testing to be put up so that it's very clean water, and public safety issues are all taken into consideration. So it's all fixed and it'll be ready to go momentarily, in the next 4 days. Bear with us. We have 110 families out there that are anxious to get water. And I just wanted to let everyone know what's going on. So thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for the support. And residents keep signing up for programs.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for the update too, Bill. Appreciate that. All right, folks, we'll move on next to public participation. Any member of the public in the room may come forward to the table and state your name and address for the record. If you're participating by Zoom, you can do so by raising your hand in the participants window or on your phone by pressing *9, which will raise your hand so that we know you would like to be recognized. We'll start with anyone in the room. Welcome, Mr. Mortensen. Mayor Mortensen, I apologize.
Because I'm technologically challenged, I have to come down. I can't Zoom. Don't mind. Thank you. First, I'm here to speak on the main item, or I think what seems to be the most hot um, ticket on the charter revision. I'd first like to thank the Charter Revision Commission. I don't know if anybody, I'm sure some of you might have served on that committee over the years. It's happened a lot more than once. It can be, I'm not going to say boring, but it's very technical, can be drudgery. It's usually hard to get a council person to raise their hand to serve on the commission, but that's actually part of the issue of what I'm going to talk about. So I think the charter, in checking with James and what I remember was probably sometime in the 60s, the charter as we know it was made. Over the period of time, the town has changed immensely in so many ways that we can't even think about. At one time, there were more cows in Newington than people. I used to take swimming lessons in Mill Pond. Okay, so you know things have changed a lot. And because of that, charter revision commissions come up often, not very often, but to change things. And one of the issues in this that seems to be a stick in the craw for a lot of people is the residency requirement for the town manager. So we've had, I think, 7 town managers, 2 interim town managers that I know that were in between when we had someone. I've either served or worked with 5 of those. Somehow the idea came about, and I think for the best as I can tell, back in the 60s, when the big cities, especially Hartford, that I followed closely, had so many different issues, whether they be social, geographical, whatever, and a lot of the people who worked there did not live in the city. So they came up with this idea, well, you need to have skin in the game, you need to live here so you know what it's like about what we're experiencing. That didn't really solve the problems. You know that Hartford still has problems. Different towns do too. But somehow that idea stayed that you have to live in the town. I went to the Charter Revision Commission meeting and I gave an example of, let's just say Newington's out looking for the best town manager he or she may be. And they live on Back Lane. But they live on the Weathersfield side, not the Newington side. And that he or she said, well, I'd love to take the job. There's no doubt everyone believes that they're the best quality candidate, but they don't want to move. They want to take their kids out of, say, the Weathersfield school system. So you're going to lose the best candidate because they live across the street. I would also say that in today's age, and we know everything that's going on in the world, I almost believe it's almost unconstitutional to tell somebody where you are going to live, where your kids are going to go to school. That's just not, in this day and age, I think it's one of the things that needs to change. You know, if you worked at Pratt & Whitney in East Hartford, does Pratt say to its employees, you must live in East Hartford so that you will be a good employee for Pratt & Whitney? Of course not. You work at the Aetna, you must live in Hartford because our headquarters is here and we think it'll make you a better employee. That's ridiculous. And it's just as ridiculous that this archaic piece that's in the charter, I believe, needs to come out. And the reason it needs to come out is not for the present town manager, Keith Chapman. It's so that when Newington today, tomorrow, whenever goes to get a new town manager, he or she, you get the best candidate. I have never, ever, and all those people I've served with, ever seen a situation where he or she, town manager, wasn't there when you needed them. Ever. Now, I'm not saying they need to live in New Jersey. Of course, that's not practical. Bear with me one second. You know, and if you take that for the town manager having to live here, well, what if you're a principal in the school? What's more important than taking care of our kids? The principal has to live in Newington so they can take care of our kids and they know what's going on. Again, to me, that's unconstitutional. It's never been a rule as far as I know, but it just wouldn't fly. You want the best person for the job. And I will tell you that all the employees I've served with over the years, I won't mention his name. It's not embarrassing him. It's actually a compliment. One of the best employees the town of Newington ever had was a town planner that could do anything from being the interim town manager. No matter what was thrown at this gentleman, he took care of it and he was phenomenal at it. And he didn't live in Newington. And if we had said, you know, you're a town planner, you're a department head, you can't live in Chester, you have to live here, Newington would have suffered. I'm just going to leave you with a thought. You know, the measure of a good town, and the other quick thing, I'm sorry if I go over time here a little bit, but you can look at any town around us and see over the years what problems there's been in trying to get a good town manager, he or she. They're not out there. And a good town manager, not because I'm older, but you see most of the people are in there. A good one is, maybe in their 40s or 50s, whatever. They got roots wherever they are. They got kids in the school system and don't want to move or won't take the job or wait till maybe something comes up closer to them. So a good measure of a town manager is somebody who's knowledgeable, somebody who's experienced, somebody who's got financial experience, somebody who can consolidate government, somebody who can help reduce costs for every town that's suffering with painful property taxes, somebody who saves on staffs and makes things more efficient to run better, someone who's created millions of dollars in economic development, someone who's had great evaluations. We have one of those now, but he doesn't live in town. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I do not see any other hands up. No other members of the public in the room that are looking to speak on this. So we will continue on. Next item is remarks by counselors on public participation. Pardon?
There was no email.
No emails. Sorry. Thank you, James. Deputy Mayor Bedrejko.
I just want to say, Rod, I love your high-tech little note cards.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
It was the first Palm Pilot. Not people know that.
You're aging yourself. Rod, I wanted to just say thank you for coming forward. I was at the charter revision meetings. I think I missed one meeting out of all of them. And it was you that came forward for a member of the public. And I can think of one other, maybe two other that came forward from the public to speak. There wasn't a lot of public participation to let us know kind of how people felt on things. So I appreciate that you came forward and made your point known. And actually, you made me think a little bit when you started talking about constitutional and, kind of forcing where it wasn't the person. It was when you said forcing where a person's, the child would have to go to school. And that kind of resonated with me when you said that. So I appreciate your comments and just know that we're considering them, of course. All right, I don't see any other hands up. We'll continue on to consideration of old business. The first item is appropriation transfer for 2021, 2022. And is Janet on with us this evening? I'm going to turn it over to her because I did my best last meeting to explain this, but we're going to get it officially from Janet.
I am on with you, and I did listen to the meeting when I got back, and you did great. So
thank you.
You're just saying that.
No, she explained it perfectly. It wasn't too bad to listen to. It was pretty good. Appropriations transfers, the first thing we have out here, this is similar as we described before to what I gave you mid-year transfers in January. These are additional ones. This is I think Councilor Page once called it, this is our housekeeping. This is cleaning up some of the accounts that have gone over and within their departments can't cover it. The total transfers is $10,000, $4,000 to town council, $5,000 to town clerk, and $1,000 to conservation commissions. And the majority of this, as we mentioned before, is due to meetings, public notices, other issues such as that. All that money will be transferred. We're proposing being transferred out of contingency. That will leave contingency still with approximately $124,000 left that we hadn't used. Also within the memo, you'll notice I am requesting to have the Indian Hill Country Club roof, the amount that's left in that capital project, transferred over to the sidewalk pavers and curbs. Once again, this will be work done at the Indian Hill Country Club. The roof has been finished, so we wanted to try to clean up the sidewalks over there because there appeared to be a little bit of a hazard. So that was the first request that you'll see on the screen.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments by counselors? Okay. Oh, Deputy Mayor Bedrejko.
No, Jen, I'm pleased to see that the money that was allocated for Indian Hill Country Club, the facilities for the roof, the fact that there's monies left over, that it's remaining with Indian Hill Country Club to repair the sidewalks, pavers, and curbs. They are hazardous in many respects. And I'm glad that we're able to spend monies this year to enhance Indian Hill, or to improve Indian Hill Country Club, because it is a gem. It is unique to Newington. And, but it, you know, particularly the sidewalks and whatever have become a liability. So whoever thought of this, using the funds for this purpose, I thank them.
It was actually our facilities director, Joe Salamone, who came to me with this proposition.
Great. Thank Joe for me.
I will.
Oh, never mind.
All right, if someone would go ahead and read in, who's willing to read in the resolution? I'll read it. Thank you, Counselor Retta.
In accordance with Section 808 of the Town Charter, I hereby certify that there exists free from encumbrances in the following appropriations in general fund, the amounts listed below. Account number 960, title contingency, amount $10,000, and that's per Janet Murphy, Director of Finance. Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby transfers the above certified funds to the following accounts in the general fund. Account number 110, Town Clerk, $4,000. Account number 170, Town Council, $4,000. Account number 170, Town Clerk, $5,000. And account number 460, Conservation Commission, $1,000.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Nagel. Any further discussion on this item? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I was just checking. Thank you.
Dropped off, I guess.
Counselor Page dropped off. He was having some
West Virginia. dropped
connectivity
off.
issues, so motion passes 8-0. Just making a note, okay. Janet, does that address the second part of that, which is the the Indian Hill piece, or do we need a separate resolution for that?
You need a separate resolution for that. That one wasn't included on there. I just noticed that.
Yeah, okay, so I didn't, yeah, okay. So we need a resolution. Let me just flip back my page here. So if someone could make a motion to transfer the money from account, you'll see it on your memo right there.
Right.
Okay, go ahead, Tim.
I would move that we transfer money from account 31110-88005 Indian Hill Country Club Roof
In the amount of,
in the amount of $8,993.20 to account number 30310-88515 sidewalks, pavers, curbs in the amount of $993.20.
Second.
seconded by Counselor Rada. Janet, does that motion meet the need?
Just the above portion, you'd have to say that, you know, in accordance with Section 808 of the Town Charter, I hereby certify that there exists
I
free.
will amend my motion then to say certification in accordance with this Section 808 of the Town Charter. I hereby certify that there exists free from encumbrances in the following appropriations in general fund, the amounts listed below. Account number 31101-88005 Indian Hill Country Club Roof in the amount of $8,993.20.
Perfect.
Janet Murphy, Director of Finance.
Okay. And you're good with the second, Counselor Rada? Thank you. All right, any further discussion on this item? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Thank you. Next item is the additional appropriation for the Camp Ave study and West Meadows Cemetery roadways. Ms. Murphy, do you want to go ahead and briefly give us
Sure.
a summary of that one?
Yeah. If you guys remember back when we were originally looking at doing the paving in March, we were talking about doing milling and paving at Camp Avenue. We talked about doing an additional appropriation of $125,000. That was due to the fact that we were getting municipal grants and aids from the state, approximately $419,938 more than we had budgeted this year. That grants and aid has to be used on roads. So we were proposing using it to doing the milling payment of Cap Avenue. During that meeting, it was determined that we were going to do a study instead of actually doing the milling and paving to determine what we would go forward with. Due to that, Gary Furstenberg, the engineer, who went out and he looked for people to do the study, got some proposals, some quotes, and we're now asking for $25,000 to do the study of Camp Ave. And in place of doing the rest of the milling paving, because we're just doing the study at this point, we were looking for $100,000 to do some work on the West Meadow Cemetery, the road heading into the cemetery. It's in a pretty poor shape that we noticed.
Okay. We have in our packet a resolution. Deputy Mayor Bedrejko.
Certification in accordance with section 807 of the town charter. I hereby,
Well, point of order, hold on one second. Is that supposed to be 808? Janet, that should be 808 or 807 of the town charter.
I'm looking. Sorry, I'm trying to get on my other computer while I'm on with you guys.
I'm sorry, I just thought it was always 808. I wasn't sure.
The other one's 808.
This is a special, this is not a transfer. This is a special appropriation.
Okay.
So
it's
James, if
807.
you could double check, is it 807?
It is 807, just verified.
Okay.
Thank you. My apologies. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor. I'm sorry.
that's right, certification in accordance with section 807 of the town charter. I hereby certify that there exists free from encumbrances in the general fund balance, the amount listed below. Account 1-4999F, fund balance, amount $125,000. Janet Murphy, Director of Finance. Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby authorize a special appropriation from the above certified general fund balance to the following account in the capital improvement fund. Account 30310-88819-3141, Camp Avenue Study, amount $25,000. Account 30310-88819, West Meadow Cemetery Road, amount $100,000.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Nagel. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 8-0. All right, next item is special appropriation Treasury Fund Cemetery to Cemetery Budget. Ms. Murphy?
This, I know you, I think the town manager addressed the issue where we're looking to get 3 additional employees to work on our cemeteries and get them back up into good shape. To be able to do this, if you remember during budget season, we do, during the budget approval, we approve a transfer from the cemetery fund to the general fund that covers all the expenditures in our general fund for the cemetery. These are additional expenditures that will now be incurring, so we have to get approval to increase the transfer that we originally approved during the budget process by $227,650. This will cover salaries, payroll taxes, and retirement.
Okay. Who would like to read this one in?
Can we discuss it? Or no?
Can we read it in and then we'll discuss that before we take the vote? Is that okay? Okay. Counselor Nagel?
Certification in accordance with section 807 of the town charter. I hereby certify that there exists free from encumbrances in the cemetery fund balance, the amount listed below. Account number 20011-4999. Fund balance $227,650 per Janet Murphy, Director of Finance. Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby authorizes the special appropriations from these above certified cemetery fund balance to the following account in the general fund. Account number 10832-810, full-time salaries cemetery, $195,156. 10944-8220, Social Security, $12,100. 10945-8220 Medicare taxes, $2,830. 10943-8220 retirement, $17,564.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor
Second.
Canelo. And discussion, Deputy Mayor Draco.
Yeah, Janet, I just have a question or two when I was thinking more about this. We're using, because there's a fund balance now of 227,650. It seems, I don't know, hiring 3 people, three positions seems like a significant increase. I mean, I don't know how many people are assigned now, but, and I understand that there's a significant amount, I guess, of catch-up work and repair work that needs to be done. But just my business mind is saying, okay, so we're going to be taking on 3 new people. I don't know if they're full-time or part-time, but once that work is done or that catch-up or cleanup, is there going to be a significant amount of work on a 12-month basis to justify hiring 3 additional people? And will those funds be available? Like right now, we have that balance in that fund, but will those funds be available in the coming years to maintain these people on the roster?
I'm going to, this is more of an operational question, so I'm going to give this one to the town manager.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, Janet. The idea of bringing in 3 people at this stage of the game is to play catch up in the 3 cemeteries that the town owns. It is obvious if you, well, in fact, I know most of you have gone through at least a couple of the cemeteries, but they all are in conditions that are certainly not acceptable to the town of Newington. And how long we will keep these 3 people on board will depend on how rapidly we can get caught up and then establish a process that will maintain our cemeteries in the condition that they should be maintained in. If we find that we can reduce down the number of employees assigned to the cemetery, we'll say in
We lost Mr. Chapman.
1 or 2 system in place that keeps probably reduced down through attrition as the opportunity comes along to eliminate a position within the Parks and Grounds division. But we've been struggling since I've been back here, at least that I know of, with the Parks and Grounds division, because they do have so much acreage that they're working on, plus the 3 cemeteries. And it's pretty clear that we are falling behind in all areas. So we're going to turn the corner now, and then we'll assess it each year and determine if we can cut back as we get caught up. But at this stage of the game, I would not want to predict when that will happen. There is a lot of work to get done. And what will happen is those employees that have been doing the cemetery work will be relieved of that work, and they'll be back into the Parks and Grounds division doing, the landscaping and so forth, and the snow removals and so forth that we have within the Parks and Grounds division. So this is, I think it's finally recognizing that the cemeteries have been taking it on the chin for a number of years because we just didn't have enough staff. And I've been back now to analyze it and talk with Bill and others, and have determined that this is a good opportunity at this time to move forward and get caught up, and then see where we are and how we're going to move forward to stay caught up.
I was just concerned, but it does sound like this is a sustainable plan, and that the positions will be flexible enough to move in the future to where they're needed, or else via attrition, we could, reduce staff if needed. So thank you.
Just a point of clarification too, the 227,650 is not the full balance in that fund. That's just the amount that we're transferring, correct? There's still a significant balance in that account.
That's correct.
And, right, and we would continue to collect, however we collect fees into that account, in order to continue to maintain the cemetery, which is the way that was designed.
Yes.
Okay. Counselor Mankey?
So just Janet, in future budget years, we'll just transfer more money out of the cemetery fund to cover these three people?
I'm sorry, that's correct. We will, we just didn't have this in place when we approved the budget this year.
Right. Okay,
So
so
as the town manager said, we can assess every year and see where it's needed, and what shape the cemeteries are in, if it stays a transfer out of there or goes over to parks.
okay. And the cemetery fund has a healthy balance, I would assume, based on how many people buy a plot, the money goes into a fund and it's paid off.
Yeah, it currently has a $1.9 million balance. Just, as you remember, as we start, this has to also be used for perpetual care. So I think we have to keep planning in the future and evaluating the use of it as we get caught up on the care of the cemetery.
Right, because this fund will have to continue forever.
Yes,
You buy a plot, you expect it to be, the cemetery to be there forever.
correct.
I would hope. Thank you.
Okay. Any other council comment or question? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 8-0. I keep looking over to you, James, to make sure Mitch hasn't popped back in, correct? Okay. All right, next item is the annual suspense list. As Councilor Donovan said earlier, this is killing us, Janet.
Killing us.
I'm still here. This is a list you guys get annually from our revenue collector. You did a great job, actually, in the meeting and describing exactly what this is. It gets moved over to a suspense list, but I caution you, this doesn't mean we don't collect it or can collect it. It's just those that they put over there for accounting purposes onto the special list for the auditors to be able to see.
All right. Who would like to go ahead and read this motion in?
Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby authorizes the transfer in the amount of $137,478.50 to the suspense tax book for the list year 2020 to 2021. This action is being taken upon the recommendation of Corrine Eldinger, Revenue Collector, as shown on a revised report dated June 10th, 2022.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Nagel. And any discussion on this one? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Sure, you can continue.
Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby authorizes the outstanding balance from the 2006 grand list in the amount of $8,794.21 be removed from the town's receivable assets as of June 30th, 2022, per the recommendation of Corrine Eldinger, Revenue Collector, as shown on a report dated June 10th, 2022.
Second.
Second by Counselor Rada. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 8-0. All right, thank you. Thank you, Janet. That was a lot for you right in a row. We appreciate it. Next item is.
I appreciate being at the beginning, so thank you.
That's true. You do usually have to hang out for a while, so glad you could be done.
Thanks.
All right, next item is the Newington High School roof replacement. We have phases 2 and 3 in front of us this evening for our consideration. Mr. Chapman, do you want to start this one off?
Yes, I'm very pleased to see that if you've been by the high school recently, you'll see all kinds of materials sitting on the ground and all kinds of, we'll say cordoned off areas up on the top of the roof. So this project is well underway. We started it last spring during the spring break when the high school was off for a week. As soon as the high school ended this year, we immediately jumped on it, and we have been doing the whole process through bid waivers, not seeking any type of reimbursement from the state because the cost was, significantly higher going through that process than what we're doing here. And we're working with a contractor that did work for us last year on the roofs at the high school, the initial ones that were leaking at the time. So we're very comfortable with the contractors that we've hired, and we're very pleased that we're saving about well over $5 million in cost by doing it in the fashion that we're doing it, rather than going through the state reimbursement program. So we're well underway. The project is on schedule or even ahead of schedule at this point. And as long as the weather holds up, we'll be in great shape, and it'll be done before school opens up in the fall.
Great. All right, who would like to read the first motion? Counselor Nagel?
Whereas the town of Newington has been approached by the Board of Education regarding roof repairs to the Newington High School. And whereas the Board of Education is interested in repairing at least 5 sections of the high school roof. And whereas the town has solicited a quote from Silktown Roofing of Manchester, Connecticut to complete several roof areas with a 30-year NDL warranty upon final inspection. And whereas Silktown Roofing has acquired the necessary roofing materials to complete the repairs into multiple areas with a 30-year NDL warranty upon final inspection. And whereas Silktown Roofing is working to acquire the necessary roofing materials to complete the additional areas with a 30-year NDL warranty upon final inspection. And whereas the town council under the Newington Town Charter, section C-814, hereby determines that it is not in the best interest of the town to require sealed bids due to the health and well-being of the affected employees and students within the school system. And whereas the town council hereby determines that at least the 5 roof areas should be completed immediately, and that the additional areas should be completed once all necessary roofing materials have been acquired. And whereas the cost of the outlined roof repair should be funded through the use of the CIP Town Buildings Roof Replacement and Repairs account. Now therefore be it resolved that the town council hereby authorizes Keith Chapman, town manager, to execute any and all necessary contracts with Silktown Roofing to complete the repairs to the Newington High School roof as outlined above.
Seconded by Counselor Camillo. Any discussion on this one? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Counselor Page absent. All right, the next one is the phase 3. Who would like to go ahead and read that in? Counselor Donahue?
Sure. Whereas the town of Newington has been approached by the Board of Education regarding roof repairs to the Newington High School. And whereas the Board of Education is interested in repairing at least 4 sections of the high school roof. And whereas the town has solicited a quote from Architectural Sheet Metal of Manchester, Connecticut to complete several roof areas with a 30-year NDL warranty upon final inspection. And whereas Architectural Sheet Metal has acquired the necessary roofing materials to complete the repairs to multiple areas with a 30-year NDL warranty upon final inspection. And whereas Architectural Sheet Metal is working to acquire the necessary roofing materials to complete additional areas with a 30-year NDL warranty upon final inspection. And whereas the town council under Newington Town Charter, section C-814 hereby determines that it is not in the best interest of the town to require sealed bids due to the health and well-being of affected employees and students within the school system. And whereas the town council hereby determines that at least the 4 roof areas should be completed immediately, and that additional areas should be completed once all the necessary roofing materials have been acquired. And whereas the cost of the outlined roof repairs should be funded through the use of the CIP Town Buildings Roof Replacement and Repairs account. Now therefore be resolved that the town council hereby authorizes Keith Chapman, town manager, to execute any and all necessary contracts with architectural sheet metal to complete the repairs to the Newington High School roof as outlined above.
Second.
Second by Counselor Camillo. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Counselor Page absent. Next item is the standing insurance placement of coverage. The Standing Insurance Committee held a special meeting on June 23rd to discuss and recommend to us the coverage placement for property casualty liability insurance. The committee voted unanimously to recommend to the agent of record to place coverage for the 2022-2023 policy year. You'll see in our packet more information regarding this from Mr. Barron. Mr. Menke, you're the chair. Do you want to give us any further information?
Certainly. The committee met last Thursday, and we reviewed our recommendations from our agent of record. Just to be clear, that we have a agent of record who goes out and recommends insurance coverages. So they go out and sort of shop the insurance. And they did that, and they found that our current insurance coverage is with KERMA, and that was the best rate we could get for the coming year. So as you see in the packet, there's two sections here. Workers' comp is $635,441, and then the general liability auto property coverage, like you'd have on your house or your car, is $8,503 and $853,220 for that coverage. And that was a recommendation of our insurance agent of record who went out and shopped the insurance, and this was their recommendation.
Okay.
So we do need insurance coverage starting the first of the year, 1st of July. So this is obviously a timely issue. What? Yeah. The other, and you see in the resolution, we also resolved that we also talked about KERMA offered us a rate lock where they would guarantee the rate for the next 2 fiscal years at a 5% increase. So we would get this year's insurance at what I quoted here, and then the next 2 years would be a 5% increase, and then a 5% increase on the 3rd year. The committee thought that was we appreciated them making that offer to us, but we also thought that we haven't gone out as a town to review our insurance coverage with other carriers in a while. So we thought we would put an RFP out and explore if there were other coverages. So we decided not to do the rate lock at this point. Our agent of record, that's his recommendation, thinking that there are other players that are now in the municipal insurance game that would willing to bid on our coverage, where there wasn't that before. So they thought that would be the best thing to do is send it out there. We can always, next year do the rate lock next year, and their recommendation with their knowledge of KERMA is usually that it doesn't go up that much anyway. So
okay. Thank you for that. Mr. Chapman or Ms. Murphy, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I thought Councilor Meggie did a great job, and I fully support the Standing Insurance Committee's recommendation. And I think we want to go forward with this. Absolutely.
Okay.
I could just add that there are people on the Standing Insurance Committee who have a lot more knowledge of insurance issues than I am. I just get to luckily be the chair because I guess I'm the ranking member on the committee, I guess. But these people, they really went through this proposal with a fine tooth comb and ask questions that every time I go to one of those meetings, I learn something, which I'm impressed with, and the breadth of knowledge that people would. Standing insurance is not one of the sexier committees in town. In fact, I remember when I first got asked on as just a general member of the public, I tried to get away from it because it just sounds so boring. But these people are on this committee, and they really have expertise and knowledge, and it's lucky that Newington has people who have that expertise and knowledge that can serve on this committee, because they really asked some really pertinent questions and made some good suggestions. So.
And they volunteer.
And that's if you're going to volunteer for a committee, you want to be a committee that's nobody wants to volunteer for the standing insurance committee unless you have that skills, and I'm glad we have people in town that do have the skills.
Would you like to go ahead and read that?
Certainly.
resolution?
Resolved that in accordance with section 8-27 4A of the Code of Ordinances, the Newington Town Council hereby accepts the recommendation of the Standing Insurance Committee and directs USI Insurance Services of Meriden as the town's agent of record to place workers' compensation, general liability, automobile liability, professional liability, and umbrella coverage with the Connecticut Interlocal Risk Management Agency, KIRMA, effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. Be it further resolved that the town council, upon recommendation of the Standing Insurance Committee, chooses not to accept the KIRMA rate lock offer at this time.
Okay, is there a second? Seconded by Counselor Donahue. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, thank you. Sorry about that. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Okay. We are on now to resignations and appointments. We do have an appointment to the Commission on Aging and Disabled. Counselor Menke?
Resolved, the Newington Town Council hereby makes the following appointments. Commission on Aging and Disabled, Jerry Lynn Nagel, member, address 1175 Willard Avenue, Party R, term 6/28/2022 to 11/30/2022. Reappointment of de facto term.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Counselor Nagel. Any discussion on this? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next.
The other ones, if you like.
Okay.
Resolved, the Newington Town Council hereby accepts the resignation of Audra Elkstrom from the Fair Rent Commission in accordance with email communication received June 20th, 2022, and effective on that date.
All right, is there a second? Seconded by Counselor, who was it, Donahue?
Yeah.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously, 8-0.
Resolved, the Newington Town Council hereby accepts the resignation of Audra Elkstrom from the Zoning Board of Appeals in accordance with email communication received June 20th, 2022, and effective on that date.
Second by Counselor Donahue. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Next item is refunds.
Wait, I have one more, the one we added.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I
No problem.
forgot. Thank you.
I'm on a roll.
Go right ahead.
Resolved, the Newington Town Council hereby makes the following appointments. Central Connecticut Health District Board of Directors, Roy Zartarian, address 25 Stewart Street, Party R, term 7/1/2022 to 6/30/2025, and this is a reappointment.
Seconded by Counselor Nagel. Any discussion? Say I'm glad that Roy decided to stay on. We need people on this commission, and he's been doing this for a while now, so I'm glad he decided to be reappointed. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously, 8-0. Counselor Page absent. Next item, we are on to tax refunds, approval for June 28th, 2022. Deputy Mayor Bedrego?
Resolved that property tax refund amount in the amount of $19,337.48 is hereby approved in the individual amount and for those named on the request for refund of an overpayment of taxes certified by the revenue collector, a list of which is attached to this resolution.
Seconded by Counselor Rada. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 8-0. All right. Next, we have minutes of previous meetings. I'll entertain a motion to approve the June 14th, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Menke. Is there a second? Second by Counselor Camillo. Any discussion on those? Counselor Nagel?
I've read them over. They're correct. There's just one minor correction that needs to be made to it. Under counselor's comments, under my name, the library has 3 sheds, not a shed, it's 3 sheds.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's just the S, it's minor, but, so you see, I did read it.
All right,
I
so
would
we're,
even have picked that up.
so we're looking to approve the minutes with the amendment mentioned by Counselor Nagel.
I will amend my amendment to, my motion to approve with the amendment.
Okay,
Second.
second, all right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Next item, we're on to new business, and the first item under new business this evening is the accessory dwelling unit opt-out of Public Act 21-29. We have been kind of tuning in, I think, to the discussion with the state legislature and our own town planning and zoning commission. And I'll turn this over. Mr. Chapman, is it you or is Renata on?
I'm on.
Yeah, Renata's
cool.
here, so she'll take it from here.
I apologize, Renata. I can't see everybody on the screen. You just popped up now because you said something. So welcome.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So just in a way of brief introduction, last summer, the state legislature passed the Act 2129, which introduced a bunch of changes to just general rules with regards to planning and zoning, and in particular with enabling act that gives municipalities authority to actually enact their zoning regulations and zoning rules. One rule in particular that we're to discuss tonight is the rule that deals with provisions that by default allow the construction of accessory apartments on any lot containing a single-family home unless the municipality affirmatively chooses to opt out of the provisions of this public act, and that has to be done by January 1 of 2023. We included in the packet the entire bill, and I will stay to answer any questions if you have after that, but some important provisions of the act that as relevant as to this accessory apartment part are that if we choose to opt out, we have to do that by January of next year. Otherwise, the public act will override our local regulations. What that means is that Town of Newington currently has zoning regulations that allow accessory apartments. We require special permit and we require public hearings. This public act does not allow for that. So if the act overrides our local regulations, there will be no provisions for either public hearings or special permit provisions. There are certain things in the act that deal with, accessory dwelling units having to be allowed as both attached and detached. Under our current regulations, we only allow attached units. So that's another element where we are not in line with the act. So if we don't opt out, that's another thing that will be by default belong to the public act and not to our local regulations. We cannot require a minimum square foot value for the accessory dwelling units. We cannot require more than one parking space. We cannot require more restrictive setbacks or locational standards that is required for, what we normally require for single family homes. And we can't require that accessory dwelling units are preserved for lower income residents, and we can't count them towards the low income accounting, towards that 10% count. So as I had mentioned, obviously, we do have regulations right now. We regulate it by special permit. There is public hearing that goes with that. The Planning and Zoning Commission allows these. They are only allowed as attached units. There are a number of other provisions. We do regulate certain doors that are interconnected and some other things that are not in line with the Public Act. The commission, I brought this to the commission in May. The commission, Town Planning and Zoning Commission, held 2 public hearings on this. And not 2 public hearings, but they held the hearing over 2 nights and considered quite carefully what, opting or not opting out of the Public Act would do to the town. They have concluded that with one vote dissenting, they essentially concluded that due to unique characteristics of Newington neighborhoods and potentially significant increases to the density of our residential areas through the establishment of these mandatory provisions in the Act, opting out of the Act was appropriate for the town of Newington. So by opting out, we go back to our own local regulations and our own local rules. Now, the opt-out is a 2-step process, which requires this hearing by the Planning Commission, which has happened on May 11 and May 25. The commission had to approve it by supermajority vote, which is that 2/3 votes, which they did. They had to state on record why they wanted to opt out, which they did, and we published the notice of that decision. The second step of this process is that you, as a town governing body now, need to also act on this. You do not have to hold the public hearing on this, although I feel personally that this is an important matter that affects a large portion of the town, and it is prudent to actually hold a public hearing on this. So we have put it on the schedule as if you would. Once, if you select to hold a hearing on this, you need to, whether you do select to hold a hearing or not, it doesn't matter. You, in the end, need to vote by 2/3 vote. And when you do, you need to, on the record, state the reasons for your vote. So that's kind of the rules about this. And I'm gonna answer questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Mankey?
Renata, can you tell us if this is a one-time opt-out, or do we have to opt out of this every so many years?
This is a one-time opt-out.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? So based on what, oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Counselor Retta.
Yeah, Renata, can you just offer a little clarification for number 7 regarding sharing a lot with a single-family home to be preserved for lower-income families?
Yes, so under the Act, you are not allowed, and let me actually find this exact provision and I can read it rather than trying to. Just give me 1 second to locate that part.
Oh, you're good. Take your time. Counselor.
Okay, so if you look under section 6(1), it says designate location or zoning district in which accessory apartments are allowed, provided at least one accessory apartment shall be allowed as a right on each lot that contains a single-family dwelling, and no such accessory apartment shall be required to be an affordable accessory apartment. So that's what I meant by 7.
So that's in our current regulation?
No, this is in public act, so
Okay, so-
by the
It
act,
wouldn't have to be a single, lower income.
Got it.
right, by the act, we can't require that one of these ADUs, that the ADUs be affordable, which means we can't count them as an affordable unit towards that 10%.
Okay.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Counselor Camillo?
Question, but reason we have in-law apartments is to make it affordable for a family member to live. And that's why we build them and we come to the town. We had a lot of them when I was on zoning too. I think this is an overreach by Hartford, and this is just the beginning. So we really need to pay attention to what's going on here, because next they'll be coming after our Board of Ed or our fire department, police department. So thank you, Renata.
Counselor Menke?
Renata, if you can just tell me, the way the state legislation or the state act works, anybody in town who wanted to build an addition onto their house for a accessory unit would be able to do that, and the town wouldn't have any say in how they build it or where they build it, right? Is that correct?
Not exactly. It's not exactly correct. The town would have some say. So by, zoning rules still apply, building and, health and fire code still apply.
Okay.
Zoning setbacks apply, zoning, other requirements apply, the ones that are not included and specifically prohibited from applying in this act would apply. So there are certain things that could be applicable. There are certain things that cannot be applicable. The intention, the idea behind this public act is that you cannot, or the towns cannot treat this any more harshly, any more, they cannot create more difficult standards or more excessive standards than they do for single family homes. In
Okay.
towns that have large lot zoning, out in rural areas, many towns have actually just adopted state standards because this is not a big deal. This is
Right.
actually okay for many places. Our situation is a little bit different, so.
So we have, by opting out, we would have more local control than we would by staying in.
Correct.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Bedrejko?
Yes, I think one of the things that stands out to me in the state mandated is that at least one accessory apartment shall be allowed as a right on each lot that contains a single family dwelling. Now, you indicated that, some towns are just allowing, the state regulations. They're not going to opt out. They're just going to adopt the state regulations. However, actually, there was an article, I think, in yesterday's paper where Glastonbury is looking at this, and they're looking to opt out because I don't think it's necessarily that Newington is unique. It's the fact that this came down as basically one size fits all for all 169 towns. The regulations, according to the state, there can be, attached or located, attached or detached. They don't regulate, the relationship or either the employment or the familiar relationships of tenants of these ADUs. It doesn't address that there can be any minimum number of occupants. In fact, it says it shall not be restricted by number nor type, for example, seniors only or relatives. And I don't believe that it addresses absentee landlords or the fact that, does the property owner have to be a resident in the primary or the accessory dwelling. I know some people have felt that, you know, and this will go a long ways, I think, you know, towards affordable housing. But the fact is, Newington, I think, was proactive because we do allow accessory dwelling units now, which many towns don't. And we have regulations, but we do regulate the minimum floor area. We regulate, you know, that owners of properties shall have to reside on the property throughout the duration of the permit. We have some, you know, minimum standards, and I do believe one size fits all coming down from the state. There's 169 different towns that have different densities, different lot sizes, different economic, different different populations, different, you know, terms in rural versus urban, different demographics, and a one size fits all, I just don't think is necessarily ever, it's not flexible enough, shall we say. And I do feel that Newington, we do, you know, support the intent. The intent of this is very good. And by opting out, we still will be allowed to pursue accessory dwelling units, but we'll be able to make it in a way, if I'm reading this correctly, in a way that really fits the characteristics of who we are. Is that correct? As a community?
I believe that for us, I mean, if you're directing a question to me, I believe that for us, it is a smart thing to opt out. James, can you allow me to share my screen, please?
You are all set.
Okay. So I'm going to show you a map that shows all the properties that are, and these are only properties of certain size. And I created this because eventually I will petition Planning and Zoning Commission to allow me, we'll see if they will be open to it, but I would like to review our regulations for the accessory apartments and see if we can change them a little bit to bring them a little bit more towards the act, but not all the way towards the act, not nearly all the way towards the act either. But these are the properties in green that are larger than 20,000 square feet. So allowing accessory apartments on all of these properties is excessive. You know, this would potentially create a situation where you get neighborhoods that are just, you know, these are small lots, like these are neighborhoods that are quite populated. Like right here, this is too much. However, these are lots that are about an acre. These are lots that are larger than 40,000 square feet. These could probably accommodate, you know, additional units somehow. And I think, in my opinion, having a control of using the special permit that allows commission to actually review each proposal on a case-by-case basis is appropriate, because it gives somebody a chance to actually propose and get something done, attached and detached, hopefully, if the commission agrees with me, with appropriate review process. So we'll see how this ends up in the future. But I believe that in our case, because our community is densely populated and we have smaller lots, this special permit review is appropriate. There are certain provisions that I frankly would like to strike out of our regulations. The relational component is unnecessary, and we don't even have it actually in our current regulations. The stuff about doors, you know, I think that's not necessary. There are certain things which are just could be like a matters of cleanup.
Thank you. Again, I think this map illustrates the fact that we can accommodate both, if we wanted to, attached and detached, but based on a realistic assessment of what the lot size is and what the neighborhood is and what the density is. So by opting out, we could really create something that will, maintain neighborhoods the way that they want to be maintained, but yet allow the flexibility for such things as accessory dwelling units. Thank you.
All right. Counselor Menke.
Yeah, I would certainly support opting out from what I've heard and heard today and read in the past. I guess the only issue I would have is, do we have to have a public hearing before we do that or not?
Right.
I think if they've already, Renata, when you had the 2 public hearings for TPZ, were they well attended, or was there issues raised, or?
They were not super well attended. I think people who attend meetings at the Planning Commission are a different audience than an audience that you get, which is my reason for recommended that you hold a public hearing, honestly.
Yeah, I guess I would say that a public hearing never hurt anybody. I guess I never met a public hearing I didn't like. So I would guess we should just schedule a public hearing and go from there.
Right. Do we want to go ahead and schedule a public hearing this evening on this, or should we put it on our agenda for next time?
Well, you're currently under new business, so you would have to waive rules if you wanted to.
We don't want to waive rules, so we can add this to the next agenda.
Yeah, I would think we just do it. Yeah.
Counselor Rada?
Well, that was my question is, and I'm in favor of public hearing as well. So at our next meeting, we will schedule the public hearing to be.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
James is writing it down as we speak. I can see him. So we'll add that to our next agenda for to set the public hearing date at our next meeting. Any other council comment or question? Okay, I think we're all set. Thank you very much, Renata. That was a lot of information. I'm really glad that you were here to share it with us.
Have a good night, everybody.
You
Good night.
too. Thanks.
You too.
All right, we are on now to discussion of the draft charter and Charter Revision Commission reports. On June 22nd, 2022, the Charter Revision Commission completed its review of the proposed charter language and approved the submission of the draft charter language report to the town clerk. And based upon that action, James has sent to us the draft language for our review. We have with us this evening Mr. Harpy, who was the chairman of the Charter Review Commission. So I'll invite him forward to discuss with us. The town attorney, Mr. Ancona, did review all of the language prior to the committee adopting the language to send to us. And I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Harpy.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for taking the time to review this with us this evening.
After sitting there for an hour and a half, are you missing being a counselor? That's the first question.
I was in Walgreens the other day, and a guy comes up to me and he says, I would watch more of this stuff on your charter review. It's like watching grass grow. So I assured him we grew plenty of grass, and then I rethought that comment. At least the Newington police get nervous of what's going on at charter revision. First of all, I want to thank the members of the commission that worked so diligently alongside of me and with me, Anthony Gonzalez, Nancy Capello, Chris Miner, and Kevin Vorup. And what you have before you, fortunately, is truly a bipartisan document of sorts with our recommendations on all of the charges. We reviewed all of the charges that you asked us to initially, and we held 2 public hearings, one before we got into any substantial development of ideas, which were required by statute, as you know, and then the second one where we reviewed the draft that you have before you with the public. So the public has seen this initially, and we took the input. The other thing that we did was we reached out to other resources within the town hall for us. We met with the chief of police, we met with the town planner, we met with Mr. Chapman, we met with the finance director, we met with town planner and others. The trustee, a trustee from the library also appeared. So we went through a number of individuals as we came into items that reflected changes or amendments or no recommendation in areas of their expertise. And so we took that in as we developed our recommendations to you. I should share with you, and you probably know this, one of the reoccurring themes that came to us from many, some commissions and boards like Parks and Rec, that a remodeling or downsizing of the membership was necessary to make it stay functional, make quorums. And we saw that with the Aging Commission, which unfortunately, I'm told hasn't met for 10 months due to quorum issues. And yet, they go ahead somehow and keep the engine running over there. The director does. So these are things that we'll have recommendation on, but there's been a discussion as well as should some of these be done through an ordinance or through charter changes in terms of the remodeling and the platform of a given commission. And of course, that's up to you. We did create a chart, and I also want to thank the town clerk for all of his due diligence, James, on this. I know what he does with his Saturdays now because I spent about 5 hours on this current Saturday. He doesn't offer you tea or coffee. I just want to make sure it's not spoiling anybody.
If I do that, then you have to use the bathroom. We don't get any work done.
Never leave if he does that. So anyway, what I'd like to do, if we could, let me see if I have it here. You do have the intent and purpose of proposed revisions, but let me back up into your charge items, which were a total of 13 that were attached to the resolution that you created us by. And for you and the edification of the public listening, number one was to include a mandate for the charter every 10 years, set up a committee to make a time frame for review. Initially, the language we had did do that in our recommendation. The town attorney came in and thought it'd be better if you had more flexibility of setting up the committee, that you wouldn't necessarily do it in 10 years. You could discuss it at the 10-year mark and then make a decision of what you wanted to do. So that's what came to us from the town attorney. But initially we did have it straight on. So that's a decision you can think about. Number two of your charges, excuse me. I'm in a meeting. I apologize for that. Number two is review and update referendum limits to bring them into current expenditure. This has to do with items that would be going, if they're in excess of 975,000 currently in the charter, they would go a special appropriation for approval by the taxpayers for whatever amount that may be. And as we looked around the various towns have changed the whole metric on that. They are all going with some sort of a percentage in excess of the general fund balance, expenditures, and appropriations. And the reason they're doing that is they want to make it a closer touch to the fund, the general fund, which has a larger portion of tax collections, property taxes, you well know. And so they want to balance the percentage of the growth beyond that and tie it to the general fund appropriations and expenditures, which seem to make sense to us. The 1.50%, the 150 basis point spread, if or at or in excess of 1.50% of the general fund balance and expenditure, appropriations and expenditure, would be an automatic call for an item that would have to go for referendum. So you can think of it, the same way. You can think of it in the same way that you look at the existing charter of 975,000, anything in excess of that. All we did, we eliminated the flat number because that number is 10 years old. The number before it was 10 years old. You're dealing, it really takes you out of the process of being able to adjust accordingly. So for every annual year, you would have that 1.5% unless you decide to change it for some reason. Number 3, review Article 6 and look at the number of members specifically for Parks and Rec, which is, as you know, currently at 11. This issue was first brought to me personally by Mr. Woods. He was concerned about the quorum issue. And then I guess people were placed on the committee, which made it 11 again, and it was running pretty well. But the chairman came in a couple of weeks ago on Parks and Rec before the commission and was concerned that this thing really needs to be downsized so that we won't have issues going forward. And they recommended a 4-3 with 2 alternates. You'll see a 5-2 that the committee recommended, 5 for the majority party, 2 for the minority party. But the Mr. Vitalico recommended 4-3. He was concerned about it not being partisan enough, which it has been right along, but he just raised an issue. Number 4, review the documents of ambiguous terms like shall and may. The town attorney said shall means shall and may means may. So where you want it to be shall, then it should say shall. And he went through a number of those that you see as you look at the documents. Number 4, review the document. Well, I'm sorry, I'm echoing myself. Number 5, review and clarify Article 9, personnel, specifically who has control of the Board of Education. This has to deal with certified positions that have non-certified positions, that are under the control of the town manager and under your budget for benefits and starting salary and raises and all of those things. Any disciplinary action is all under the non-certified. And what's been happening, as you know, since Bill Ward was superintendent, people have driven buses that were really hired by the town as non-certified. They've worked in the cafeteria. The manager of the cafeteria was hired by the town back in the day as non-certified under the certified budget. And then the state of Connecticut passed a law creating a new certified position. So the same educational requirements and training have been applied that are applied to teachers have now been applied to non-instructional people that don't teach kids at all at any time for certified positions that head up the IT area and other positions in the school system. And without getting into any legal discussions, Mr. Chapman did come the evening we discussed this. We invited him, and the superintendent of schools came, and they each have their own opinions how that can be resolved. We originally had language to try to correct this, but we were told by both sides that they're going to settle it a different way, and that would be preferential, not to prejudice one side against the other, by this charter commission making a recommendation. So we stood down on that, but that's an ongoing problem. Although I do understand, you can correct me, Mayor, on this, that when they negotiate salaries for some of these newly certified positions, or even the ones that are non-certified that are working in the system, they invite the town to the table. Hi.
We just finished our showing of Bloody Bill for the 151st anniversary. There's a box of leftover.
Oh, thank you.
Refreshments.
Well, now I've lost my place over the cupcakes.
Over cupcakes. Everything takes precedent over cupcakes.
So it's a very complex issue, this issue, and I don't know how it's all going to work its way out, but we'll see in time. Number 6, charge time council organization, 7 o'clock. We did change it from 8 to 7, but the town attorney said that, again, this should be set by the current council in your annual schedule of meetings, and that you guys would set the time even for the new council based on what the charter says. So we didn't do anything with that. Number 7, specify how commission and board members can be removed if they do not attend meetings or are unable to contact them or conduct unbecoming a board behavior, I guess, commission member. Now, under this particular item, the charter does have a punitive action requirement if someone is really not demonstrating any kind of decorum in a meeting. They're way outside of how behavior should be adjusted, or there's some criminal activity that the town is somehow suspicious of, and there's punitive action or removal action required. That's done under another portion of the charter. And what we interpreted, and from input from the mayor, what you were looking for in this item was to be able to replace somebody who no longer met the definition. A citizen of the town, an elector of the town, they moved out of town, they didn't inform you, you can't get a hold of them, but yet the position is still there. Under this recommendation, you would be able to remove that person. They would be subject to a hearing. They'd have an opportunity to be heard by the entire council, either in public or executive session. Or if it was a very sensitive personal matter, they could meet at the council's discretion with the mayor and the minority leader and have that same conversation to see what the issue is. Number 8, review the language of the library trustees, and that's where we had a combination on the selection from the town, and then it said town council, and we removed the word town and put town council. Number 9, look at all the numbers in the charter related to amounts required for referendum bidding. Now, we had a conversation with the finance director on this. She's very comfortable with the $30,000 mark and up to bid. She said the state of Connecticut has a $50,000 that we could have wanted to, but we took her advice and we left that one alone. I'm coming speeding through these, but I just want to give you the basics of how we got through this. Number 10, review staggering terms for the council. Now, this is the most complicated thing you'd ever want to get involved in. I have a cousin that lives in Killingly. There's 9 council members, and some are in the district and some are at large. If you're at large and they don't say how you got there, you get to run for 4 years, 5 members run, and then 4 of them run like we have districts here, polling districts. That's how they form. Now, it doesn't talk about a recycling method, but they're supposed to flip with every 2 years who was on for, on an expiring basis. Eventually, the 2-year people would get a chance to run for 4, and they would become at large. It just sounded like a real puzzle that you could spend a lot of time on. So we didn't see the benefit. Either just my cousin Killingly. We didn't see the benefit to the governance process, that it really didn't bring any value. We could understand it because it gives people a longer time not to have to worry about running for an election every 2 years. But it's a very cumbersome process. It's been challenged legally in the courts, the at-large process on a discrimination basis, that can be done in certain towns. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's out there. So we stayed away from that one.
The registrar of voters weigh in on that also.
And the registrar of
Yeah.
voters was there too. That's right. She was one of the resources that we went to. Review residence requirements for the town planner and the chief of police. They both came before us, and I thought they were elegant in their presentations. And the chief and the town planner already live here, as you know. So that's not an issue for them, but they both kind of stood back and said that they thought it did affect the labor pool as you look at everything, and that it didn't necessarily guarantee success of the candidate because he lived here, if you're not looking around. So we didn't touch that one at all because we didn't see the need to force a residency on if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of thing, as it was in reference to the town planner and chief of police. Review 410, right of referendum on ordinances to ensure that existing language is timeline proper. Now, we found numerous flaws. Well, I shouldn't say flaws, a lot of steps that James has to go through, but we know he likes to work hard. So we left that under the attorney's, town attorney's recommendation, we left it alone. If you want us to go back, and you have, as you know, the right to kick this back to us for some reason or reasons, then we'll take another look at it. But right now, we erred on the side of leaving it alone, and James seems to be comfortable in understanding it, putting words in his mouth. So we'll see how it goes. But number 13, the auditor. We did create an audit committee. If I do understand that there's a resolution that, well, the Standing Insurance Committee is doing some of those functions presently. So you can take a look at the items that we put in there. It really focuses on the scope of what the auditor is going to do, and that you would have individuals on this committee get involved in that. It also is focused on a review of the management letter. Now, that's the letter that Mr. Chapman signs every year, or whoever town manager is. In that letter, they indicate usually some areas that have to be enhanced or corrected. And I'm sure Mr. Chapman's doing that. But I don't know if you guys see that right now, but the committee thought we would encourage that to be part of the audit committee's function, is to sit and review that letter as well. So that was the 13 items that you gave to us, and you'll see that broken out on your proposed sheet that we put together, the intent and purpose of the proposed revisions. Then we added some items on the emergency ordinance section of the charter, where you don't have to get the public's permission to spend money to handle an emergency, and you don't need any kind of a referendum on that. And then 61 days, that emergency ordinance drops dead. So whatever activity takes under it. But the commission is recommending that 30 days out into the emergency, if possible, and we have the word if possible, the council would hold a public meeting to discuss where you are on dollars spent and what your projected cost you would see would be involved. This is all a possibility. If the council can't convene itself for one reason or another, you wouldn't do it. And you probably would do it anyway. This council would likely do it automatic versus having it in a charter, but it's something we came up to keep the public involved on the measures involved in the situation. The other issue is the statute language on the Development Commission. There's a host of things the Development Commission can do that are referenced quickly as by statute, but it doesn't explain it in the charter. And it's my understanding that the Development Commission is finding it difficult. Well, they meet, but they don't have a lot of items to go through because I don't believe they're aware, from the ones that we've talked to, aware of what they're allowed to do under the charter. And that would be to analyze the economy in conjunction with other agencies, the chamber and whatnot, and to put an annual report together that would be reviewed by the council in terms of how they think things could be improved or other areas that you should be looking at. And they would do that in conjunction with the chamber, CBIA, the town manager's office. It'd just be another leg on the chair of economic development if you choose to have that in there. And of course, now we come to the town manager's residency requirement. We did do quite a bit of analysis on this, and we had James, at the request of Commissioner Minor, James went to the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities. I think you have that letter in your packet, and that indicates the trend analysis. You'll see a number of towns that are moving away from the statutory requirement. And in fact, Plainville, which still has it in their charter, was hiring a new town manager. I don't know if they've completed that cycle. And in the ad for the position, they indicated that the council would work earnestly to drop the requirement if it were a problem for the person they were interviewing about what they were saying. So I know that's a big step forward and that there's a lot of different issues with regard that. But I do think, and again, I think we've done this in a very objective way, the commission, and even in Mr. Minor's position on this, he was quite objective about his presentation on it. I think there is a trend line that we can demonstrate to you on a documented basis that is moving away from residency requirement for all the reasons that Mr. Mortensen talked about and what you also have in your own opinions and minds. So that's a quick review of it. I guess what would be your next process, Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, council, you'll see in your, in your packet this evening, the outline of the charter revision process. Excuse me. The council has to have a minimum of one public hearing on the draft report first, and then a final hearing, if any, must be held not later than 45 days after the submission of the draft report. So we have some time between now and then to certainly consider the language before us, and, you know, kind of decide where we're at on each of the items that have been brought forward.
Okay. We also, as I mentioned before, had the Commission on Aging and Disabled membership issues, and I'd like to share with you, under the intent and purpose of proposed revisions, what as an example, the director of the Senior Disabled Center reviewed the commission, the limitations imposed on the Aging and Disabled Commission and the meeting quorum requirements. She recommended possible removal of member quantity listed in the charter. The removal would allow for town council to revise the membership requirements through the ordinance process within the code, Chapter 8, Article 5, Commission on Aging and Disabled. The commission, during the review of the town boards and commissions, had noticed a trend on boards with larger membership requirements having a difficult time in sustaining quorums to conduct their business. And that was commission review. Town council compensation was the other one that we well, in a way we added it. We didn't put it officially in. We looked at several towns that compensate their councils, and they're not large amounts of money, but we also understand that volunteers are difficult to come by. Not that this would be a real inducement, but be a direct thank you for spending the time that you guys spend, as an example, on all the things that you do. I mean, the public has no idea. I'm sure they have appreciation, but they really don't have a concept of the kind of heavy-duty lifting that you guys have to do year after year. And the commission discussed the possible compensation for the mayor, town council, due to increased duties and meeting attendance. Former Mayor Rodney Mortensen, as you know, indicated that a stipend was a good idea. It felt $500, which is what a little town in Maine does. And that's probably like $5,000 to the people up there, is insulting, according to Mr. Mortensen. I view it this way, that this part-time job that you're all involved in here is on a full-time basis almost at this point. And I don't think citizens would be opposed to it. I know it's very difficult to vote for your own increase or recommendation on how we get around that board, and this isn't to open up a panacea, Pandora's box in any fashion. We didn't list it on anything other than information to you that we looked at it. The only other town that we found was Killingly in Connecticut. There may be some others. It's not a large trend factor, but it's something that for the future we looked at. And then on those ambiguous terms of shall and may that I discussed, research indicated both shall and may are used to express permission for or obligations to act and may be interchangeable. No recommendation is made. The town attorney disagreed with that, but we had some data respectfully that seemed to be accurate. But we left it with the town attorney's recommendation that shall is shall and may is may, but there are other opinions on it. So you'll see that all in the breakout here, and it's quite a bit to take in. But I think that ends my And I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Counselors, do you have any questions for Mr. Harpy at this point? I know there certainly is a lot of information that we've been supplied with over the, the past week or so that we've been in receipt of the report. And a lot for us to review and consider and digest a bit, but we will have to have at least 2 public hearings, as well as many discussions, I think, at this table to figure out where we'd like to go with the recommendations of the commission. As Mr. Harpy mentioned, some of the committee's recommendations are very specific, and the language, we have the draft language as well, as was reviewed by the town attorney, and is in our folder online. But there were some areas where the commission chose to either not address an issue, or maybe made some changes to kind of, what either this council was thinking was necessary, or, whatever. So we definitely, as a council, have to kind of review that and figure out where we want to go with this, with the language. Counselor Menke?
Yeah, just a clarification. I guess in the outline here, it says we have to only have 1 public hearing. We have to have 2?
It says 1 public hearing, and then it says a final hearing, if any. And I think it would make sense. It would behoove us to have the final hearing also.
That second hearing will usually come about if you choose to make changes and send it back to the commission.
Okay.
If nothing comes out of it, you don't take any recommendations from the public in addition to what was made to the commission, then you would stay at your 1 public hearing and make your vote to accept their final report.
If we just accept the
Okay,
final
so
report as written.
if we have a public hearing and we want to make a change, we send it back to the commission.
Correct.
And then they send it back to us. We have to have another public hearing. Okay, I understand.
That's the whole another process. Once we do that, they have 15 days. You have it for 30 days.
Yeah.
But we do have a time constraint, and we do have to think about in that process as well. No later than September 8th, this council would need to accept and pass the resolutions, whether it be 1 question or multiples, in order for submission to the Secretary of State's office to be able to be placed on the November ballot. We can still do it after that, but it would be its own separate referendum. Again, that would be a special referendum at that point versus a standard election,
Right.
which requires a much higher standard of voting in order to pass.
Yeah, we want to make sure we comply with that September 8th deadline for sure.
And if I just continue, Mr. Harvey, you talked about commissions and cutting the membership down, and I gleaned out of there someplace that you were making a recommendation that the membership be set by ordinance and not by charter language, so that we can change it easier.
That was an option that we wanted to point out, that after discussions with the town clerk and the town attorney, that would be an option. He identified a list that, I don't know if you've shared that at this point.
I haven't shared it with them as of yet.
Okay, there is a
So-
list that you can review, Councilor Menke, in terms of that point exactly.
Okay.
That it would be easier.
So if we had a commission of 10 members, and we decided that 4 years from now, we weren't getting 10 members, we're only getting 6 members. If it was in the charter saying 10, we wouldn't be able to change it until we reopen the charter. If it was in an ordinance, we could then change the ordinance with just a public hearing and a council recommendation to change it to 6.
That's correct.
So we could respond faster to changing. I mean, by the same token, if we see a lot of people that want to join a commission, maybe they want to join the Standing Insurance Commission because it's so exciting. We could also then increase the number because as more people want to get involved in that, so we wouldn't have to wait every 10 years to open the charter. So I guess I'd recommend that we would do that, but that's for right. I mean,
One commission came forward and kind of recommended that and thought that was a great idea, and then one wasn't quite as convinced that that was the way to go. So dependent upon the commission was kind of how they felt, but that's certainly for this council to decide what makes the best sense for Newington as a whole. And, we have to, that's our charge.
well, I think it makes more sense because then we can change it faster without having to do the whole charter revision or get stuck with a commission that can't meet because they don't have a quorum.
Well, and as
For
you know,
whatever
for people watching, an ordinance isn't as easy as just we
No,
just
you-
decide.
yeah,
Like, we still
you-
have to have a public hearing. It still has to be over the course of a couple of meetings and a public hearing. So there would still be the ability for people to have input and weigh in and help us make that
And
decision.
I attended one meeting where the fear was that the council could then meet in this and do away with the commission because we just felt like it. Well, that's not
That's not it.
not possible. I mean, it's possible, I guess, but nobody would run for reelection to sit in this council or elected for this council to do away with the commission. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Well, I think we're talking about two different things. We'd be still leaving the language in the charter that creates the commission, but the membership piece of it would be governed through
Right.
ordinance, which I think would be, in my opinion, would probably be a good way to handle it. So that if a change needed to be made to the quorum and to do, we see the ebb and flow of volunteerism.
Makes us more flexible and makes us
Yeah.
more able to respond to changing needs for the town.
Mhm. Deputy Mayor Badrego?
Yeah, I've got several comments, but I'm gonna wait till the public hearing is done. But one thing that did just kind of hit me today when you were talking about removals and suspensions, and it says on page 9, should issues be of a personal nature, the appointee may request a meeting with the mayor and minority leader. And the intent of that is to get bipartisan representation at the meeting. But we did have a situation where the mayor and the minority leader were the same party. Remember with Roy and?
Right, exactly.
So you,
Language that they're not of the same party, another member of the council of the other party, if that make you more comfortable.
That's true, we may
well,
have to
but I mean,
revise
yeah,
that,
if that's your intent, is to get a bipartisan.
Really is to get a bipartisan,
Okay,
yeah.
so then you should look at that, page 9 there.
Okay, thank you.
Well, it's really on us to look at it now, right?
All right,
We'd like to put it back on.
that's an acceptable change. I think I speak in behalf.
Any other council comment at this point? Next steps, James, how should we proceed with this? Do we just put it on our agenda for further discussion?
We
Do we
will
set the
keep-
public hearing?
We will keep that on.
Okay.
We will need to determine when you want to hold that public hearing, if you want to hold it separate from our normal council meetings, especially if we're going to be looking at one on the opt-out on the accessory dwellings. We really don't want to put our charter one on the same night. So we can think about doing that as a separate special public hearing and possibly a special meeting after it to have some discussions to keep ourselves on track.
Okay.
But definitely do read through the language. The public can see it all online if they go onto our boards and commissions. All 3 documents, one of a markup version of our charter, one that has the highlight of just added language, and then this report that the commission created as well is available on there for everyone to review. Anybody who can't do it or would like printed copies, they can definitely contact my office. I'm happy to get those out to them as well. We do have to, like I said, keep in mind what dates we're looking at. If we were to look at something, say, on the 26th of July, that would be our next actual meeting, but I'm not recommending it right now. Our first one would be no later than August 11th, but we're getting into a tight schedule at that point. If we were to look at a estimated date of a public hearing on July 26th, the last date to recommend things back to the Charter Revision Commission would be August the 10th. Then they would have time to look it over. They would have to get it back to us for a final vote on the 23rd. That would give us a little bit of time if changes were proposed.
Okay.
And then most likely, we'd have to probably hold a special meeting in order to make our dates work out. And like I said earlier, the last day that we could approve that question is September the 8th.
It is a tight timeline.
Timeline at this point now, if recommendations are going back and forth.
Okay. So counselors, if we need to meet that September 8th deadline, we may have some special meetings if there is a need for that, just to make sure we're
And
staying on
it may
track.
be a good idea just to do this as a public hearing, a special meeting, and then discuss it. I mean, before we discuss it here, I'd like to get any
The public here, yep.
I mean, to have our discussion and have the public say, oh, you didn't ask me, and then go down a whole different track. You also had 2 public hearings on this, right? Were they well attended or?
I wouldn't say well attended. We had a number of calls, in that fashion. And it helped us build.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It'd probably help you build what you focus on.
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
I just want to say that I really appreciate the other commissioners' work as well, because this truly is a bipartisan presentation, and how easy it is to go sideways in an election year or any other year. So I want to thank the council for its support and the mayor for her attendance as well. Thank you.
I want to thank you, Mr. Harpy, and the commission as well. It was nice and refreshing to see a commission that really left any kind of politics or affiliations at the door. And you all worked really well together to kind of dive into each and every issue. And everyone was just so respectful and listened to each point of view, no matter what, and had a nice discussion about each one. So I really enjoyed meeting, being at the meetings and kind of hearing how you came to all of your conclusions and
Thank you, Mayor.
recommendations.
I appreciate that.
All right, so at our next agenda, we should add to create the public hearing date.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey.
They look good, but I'll save for you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so we're all set with that? Okay. Wonderful. Yeah, that commission did a lot of work in, relatively short period of time, to be honest. So I'm really grateful for that.
Actually, believe it or not, our time period was almost identical to the 2012 Charter Revision
Oh,
Commission as
really?
well.
Okay.
Yep, almost to the day.
It felt quick, but they went into great detail on each one of those items, so it'll be good for us to dive into it now too. I look forward to hearing from the public though as well. All right, the next item on our agenda this evening is amendment to the adopted meeting schedule to cancel the August 9th, 2022 regular meeting. You'll see, I apologize. During our leadership agenda setting meeting, we discussed the idea of possibly canceling an upcoming meeting during the summer, which has been past practice. And then James let us know after reviewing the schedule that it would make sense to look at August 9th because the date coincides with the statewide party primaries. Council chambers will be in use by the registrars for the absentee ballot counting. So if we are looking at a summer meeting, then August 9th would make a lot of sense to be the one that we cancel. So I'll open it up for discussion, thoughts, comments. Councilor Camilla?
We were just talking about the charter and we had to have, is that going to interfere if we take that off?
It shouldn't, as long as we're looking at the charter action as special meetings, we should be fine.
Good point. Deputy Mayor Draco?
Yeah, quite frankly, just because we've talked about two rather significant things tonight where we need a public hearing, the charter revision and the opt-out. And we're saying that, both shouldn't be on one night, there might be a lot of interest, whatever. Quite frankly, rather than having this, wait and do a special meeting, blah, 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 I think the workload, quite frankly, demands, in my opinion, that we don't cancel the meeting and that we proceed as and go forward. Because also, there's a significant amount of material to look through for the charter revision. We're going to have discussions among ourselves. We're going to have discussions on the opt-out. There's other things that may or may not come up. Personally, I feel that we should not cancel the meeting.
So do you have a proposed room to use? If the council chambers isn't available that evening for the because of the primary, we would need a place to meet, I guess, or we just reschedule for a different night.
We could
the same
reschedule
week,
for a
we
different
could do
night.
that.
That's not a problem. I was only putting forward the specific recommendation of canceling for the 9th due to the primary.
Right.
That wouldn't preclude any
Let's do
special
a
meetings.
Zoom meeting?
Yeah, we could do a Zoom meeting or something. I don't know.
We could do it as a Zoom individually,
We
yes.
have like 3 stories in this building. I gotta believe that.
Unfortunately, none of those conference rooms allow for the public access that we have. We're looking at 9 members plus staff. That almost takes up the standard seating at any of the tables. And then if public does come in, we are
Who's
stuck.
using this one on the night?
The registrars will be in here for absentee voting from probably about, I want to say usually 2 to 4 in the afternoon until they're completed at night.
Why do they need this? Why do they need the technology in this room?
We don't have access to Transition Academy. Students are in there. The daycare center is utilized during the summer. The multipurpose rooms are used for voting on that night. And the gymnasium is under use, but we don't have seating in there for a meeting.
What about the other half of this one?
We can check with the Board of Ed. That's a possibility. It's up to you.
Don't they have a conference room attached to registrar of voters?
Same size as your conference room in the
Oh,
town
yeah.
manager's office.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, pretty small.
I think in there we have a total of 8 chairs.
Well, it's considered new business this evening, so we can certainly figure it out between now and our next meeting and then make a decision at our next meeting. Counselor Rada.
I was just going to recommend what Councilor Draco did, that we've got a lot going on, and to cancel a meeting, I think would be a disservice to all the work that we have to do. And just really make it feel as though things are being rushed. How are we going to be able to get the public hearings scheduled, as well as our meetings and the work that we need to have done? Maybe reschedule from the 9th to another evening that week, but not to cancel the August 9th meeting.
Okay.
I would just say we have the luxury of time to decide to cancel the meeting on August 9th, which is almost like, I mean, summer's over, August 9th. So I think we don't have to make a decision today. We can see when we can get the hearings, the public hearing scheduled, and then how much there's changes to this. There maybe we may look at it and say, look, looks all good to us. There may not be a lot of changes. There may be a lot of changes, but we don't know for this point. So I would say we just leave it on the agenda at this point, and we can decide. We don't have to decide until the last meeting in July.
True, we do have time.
Excuse me.
Anyone else?
Really can't decide that on any.
Oh, no, we're not deciding tonight. Yeah, it's new business, just for consideration. Okay, we'll continue on then. Next item is written oral communications from the town manager, Mr. Chapman.
Yes, as a result of, I believe it was our leadership meeting, there was a request that we provide an update as to what projects are going on in town that would impact on people traversing the town. And I believe, James, you have the material correct in front of you, or you can put it on screen.
Just a moment. There we go.
While he's doing that, I just want to say that, okay, here we go. All right, so what we have is all of the projects that are in the construction phase or will be, along with design projects and so forth. So what we're faced with is the dog park, which we're going to have a soft opening actually on Friday at 10 a.m., followed by a grand opening later in the month once we work out any bugs that we may find. The John Stewart Drive sidewalk replacement is going to be done. Kids Lane sidewalk replacement. These are all projects that we're working on right now that will be under construction and completed this summer. Atwood Street storm drainage, the CIP road improvements, and the Pebble Drive utility restoration, John Patterson School expansion parking lot. These are all things that are going on throughout the summer. Senior Center window replacement, the Theodore Street sidewalk removal, Pheasant Run drainage, as well as the Newington High School drainage. So all those things are projects that are underway or will be underway over the next several months, with anticipation that the majority of them will be completed before the end of the construction season. Now down below, if you can move it a little bit, James, you have what's called design projects, which are projects that are currently being designed by in-house staff. And I will say that our in-house staff consists of 2 engineers. So we don't have a lot. We do have some of this being done by consultants, but Public Works is pretty busy, as you can see. Alumni Road, Cedar Street, we're trying to get that set up where you'll have right turn in, right turn out only at Cedar Street, off of Alumni and going into Alumni. And if we achieve that, then Alumni Road, the gate that's halfway up, will be eliminated, and there'll be traffic in both directions going the full length. And that's something that will help, I believe, the economic development efforts, as well as controlling traffic in a better and more we'll say, logical way. Right now, you have people turning left on Cedar Street going into Alumni without signal, and people coming out of Alumni taking a left onto Cedar Street. That is very dangerous. It's just too much traffic, and there's no signal there. So we want to reduce down the safety concerns. Garfield Street parking lot, we'll be doing that in September. Complete, not a reconstruction, but milling and overlay, resurfacing with additional handicap parking spaces, as well as electric plug-in spots where you, as the electric vehicles become more, we'll say, be able to charge their vehicles right there. And then moving down, town facility paving, preparation, Deming Street, line striping. You can see the list is quite lengthy, but the list above that are things that are being done this summer. Now, in addition, I wanted to show, if you can bring it up, James, listing for all of these streets this summer.
Let's see. That one there?
Okay. Yes, that's great. Okay, so the streets on the left-hand side, I believe, are all done now, but the streets on the right-hand side are streets that will be done. So in total, this construction season, we'll say, we're doing about 12 miles of road in total for milling and repaving, which is significantly higher than what's been done in the past. And the reason for that is that we've fallen behind, just like we talked about the cemeteries. We've fallen behind on our paving program, and we need to play catch up. And that's what we intend to do over the next 3 or 4 years, and then settle into about, we'll say, 5 or 6 miles being done a year. But as you can see, this is pretty ambitious. These are all streets that will be milled and resurfaced, which will take a lot of, we'll say, potholes out of the situation that we have right now. So if you're on that street, if you live on that street, first those streets, you're going to be facing some reconstruction problems, and we'll say detouring around some areas. We hopefully will have the residents of these streets cooperate fully with us to get these jobs done. And the letters will be going out to the property owners on these streets to let them know that we'll be doing this over the next several months, and will hopefully be done before the snow flies. And then additionally, there's 3 streets that the utility companies are responsible for: Pebble Drive, Westgate Circle, and Brick Walk Lane. They will also be milled and overlaid, resurfaced this year. And that's they're saying they're going to be done by July 22nd of this year, which will be great. Again, we're asking for cooperation of the residents for parking and traversing the area. If they can avoid it, that would be helpful. And I think that brings it up to date. And what we're going to do is we'll send out these lists to all of you as counselors, so you'll have them. If you have anybody question what streets are being done, you'll have it right in front of you, and they'll be on our website, and there'll be press releases sent out. So we should have a real busy, we'll say, construction season this year, but it'll be noticeable when we're done with the improvements that will be made.
Mr. Chapman, does actually have a page 2, which was the planning projects and future projects as well.
Yeah, I didn't want to bother even getting into that, but if you wanted, these are projects that are planned for the future. And again, this is a lot of work that's being done in-house and with consultants. But you can see that it takes in all facets of public works. And I really give credit to Gary and his staff for all the work, and Rob over in the Highway Department, and over in Clay with the Parks and Grounds Division. There's a lot of work that's being done, and we're very pleased with getting this underway, because it's been a couple of years or more that we haven't had this type of dedication and focus. And we really want to move ahead on these things. So we'll get this list out to all of you, so you'll have it. And hopefully everything rolls along smooth. Everything's depending on the weather, but if anything continues like the weather we're having, we're going to be in great shape for the summer. The other thing I wanted to talk about was we are proceeding with the town hall summer hour pilot program, where Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, the hours that were currently open will remain. However, Tuesdays, we're going to be open until 6 p.m. to help residents of the town that work during the day to be able to come to the town hall. Right now we close at 4:30. We'll stay open an extra hour and a half, and we'll be trading off closing earlier on Friday to accomplish what needs to get accomplished. And all employees will still be responsible to work a minimum of 35 hours a week that work in the town hall. And this is a pilot program starting July 1st, running through September 2nd. And we want to see how this works. It will not involve any other buildings other than the town hall itself, and only for the general government. It won't involve the school department or the police department or library or any of those folks. So it's a pilot to see how it works. We've done a survey of our employees, and they support this change. And we look at it as an enhancement for the public to be able to come in on Tuesday evenings or late afternoons, I should say, to get their work done. That sometimes they have to take off from work just to come here because we weren't open the hours any longer than, when they're working, we're working. But we want to see if the 6 p.m. on Tuesday is helpful, and then we'll assess it at the end of the September 2nd deadline, and then we'll determine if we want to expand it or end it or whatever. So I just want to let everybody know that. We're hoping that this will be a positive move, and we'll see what happens. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you. For some reason, I thought we were talking about opening at 8, but it's 8:30 for the pilot. Okay.
8:30 is the hours we currently operate, and that will be what we continue to operate. What's happening is all of the employees in the town hall are on a 1-hour lunch schedule, but they are going to be reduced down to a half-hour lunch schedule. So if people come in during their lunch hours and stuff, there'll be people there to serve them without any inconveniences.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any comments or questions, Councilor Nagel?
Yes, Keith, thank you for the elaborate information about roads that are going to be repaved and milled and so on. Do you have any information about work that the state is going to be doing on state roads? I know they've been putting in new basins on Willard Avenue and other places, and work has been done on the Berlin Turnpike. Do you have any information about any road work that's being done under the state auspices that might affect residents?
The only work that I'm aware of that they've scheduled that will impact is what they're doing on East Cedar Street now, going up the hill towards Weathersfield. That's already been built. They'll be resurfacing that. As far as what's going on in the others, I will have to let you know. I will find out tomorrow what the schedule is. Can you go back, James, to the original construction project? Let me just see if anything's listed. I don't see, we didn't capture that from what I can see here, but we'll get that and put it together and we'll send it out with what we're going to send out to you already. So we'll get that for you.
I know there's a lot of rumors by people that the state is going to be doing part of Willard Avenue, which of course will affect us all greatly. So I'm concerned about that, and of course always what the state seems to be doing off and on the turnpike as well. So appreciate any update about whether things are happening or not happening that might affect where we go and how we drive in town. Thank you.
Yes, we will get that for you tomorrow.
Okay. Anyone else? Deputy Mayor Rodrigo, you also? Okay. Okay, thank you. Next item is council liaison and committee reports. Deputy Mayor Rodrigo?
Yes, at the, just a little bit of information about on the TPZ meeting, which Councilor Rada and I are liaisons. The developers of 3333 Berlin Turnpike were there, and they had an amendment where they're going to decrease the number of parking spaces, yet still remain within, you know, what's mandated and legislated. But there was some, I think, accessory parking, or I forget what the name that the term that they use, but they're going to decrease that a few parking spaces and add more green space so that there'll be more landscaping to create some garden terraces, patios, places for children to play, families to kind of sit outside. So it'll be nice green space for families, and TPC approved that change. And they also indicated that they're going to start construction on building 1 this October. And they hope that by the end of next year, so October or the fall of 2023, that they will have tenants in building 1. And they're also going to, the entire parcel in 2022 will be starting development, but the first tenants will be a year from now.
Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we'll continue on to public participation. Any member of the public may participate by raising their hand in the Zoom application in the participants window, or if you are on your phone, *9 will raise your hand so we know you want to be recognized. There is no one in the room with us this evening, so we have no public participation with us here this evening. The first resident I see is Ms. Lyons.
Hi, Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. First of all, I want to comment on the fact that during roll call, I was asked to unmute myself. I was there. I don't know why I was asked to unmute myself. I'm sure it was just another technical error, but I guess I'm just going to have to come down to the town hall from now on and represent myself in person. That being said, I was doing some yard work and I was listening, took the phone with me and just kind of went outside and enjoyed the lovely evening. And during the accessory dwelling unit discussions, I didn't hear it, but maybe it was pointed out and I did not hear it at the time. But during the discussions at TPZ and during the public hearings, of which I was probably the only one other than Councilor Badraco that had anything to say about the accessory dwelling units, and it was my opinion we should opt out based on one thing primarily, is that although there's only one unit allowed per property, I don't believe that the town has any restrictions on how many sheds one can have in their yard. I know there's small lots on Elton Drive, and there's people here that have multiple sheds, myself included, chicken coops, pools. I can't imagine an accessory dwelling unit on a property that has a chicken coop, a pool, and 2 sheds on it. I think it's just really overcrowding. I'm glad to hear that what I'm hearing, I think, is that you're thinking about opting out, and I think that that would be a great thing for the town. We can make up our own regulations and figure out what we want to see in our own backyards or in even other people's backyards. I'm not saying you have to be very restrictive, but we should also have some kind of regulations, and I think that Councilor Badraco hit the nail on the head when she said one size doesn't fit all in the 169 towns in this community, or in the state, rather. As far as the charter revision, I've been attending some of the meetings, and there's not been much public participation. I'm hoping that when you have your public hearings that people will come out and will speak. And I'm also hoping that if anyone does appear and has any suggestions or concerns, that at least there'll be some sort of public discussion in front of the public by the town council as to what your feelings are for or against whatever is suggested. I've attended, this is my 3rd charter revision, and the prior 2 went very quickly, And I thought we're kind of rushed through, but that was my own opinion. I think this commission has taken its time. It seems as though you're going to do the same thing. And I know there are a couple of options as to whether or not the charter as a whole is approved or line by line. And that's something that I think also the public should be aware of, that you do have the ultimate choice as to how it's presented to the town. I want to thank everyone on the charter revision for the time that they've taken. I know it's a slow process, and I can understand why some don't want to go and listen to it, but I found it to be interesting, and it's something that's going to affect us for a while. And just one last thing, in all the projects, and it's hard to see, even though I have a 45-inch television, whether or not anything is on that list regarding the project that we got grant monies for Garfield Street prior to the town hall even being built. And I thought it was put on hold until the town hall was built, and now I haven't heard anything about it in a while. And I know this is not the time for answers, but I just thought I'd put it out there while I was thinking of it. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you, you as well. All right, I don't see any other hands raised, so we will continue on to remarks by counselors. Counselor Donahue.
Yeah. This is just a general comment. I had a gentleman standing on the corner of my street Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, passing out flyers against the train station. I was concerned for his safety because he was actually walking out into traffic and knocking on windows. But he probably had 1,000 flyers. And a bunch of people took them. I don't know if that means they were interested. They wanted to get them out of his way, but not everybody is on board with the train station location on Cedar Street. And I don't know if I shared this with everybody. I can certainly send it out or give it to James, and you can send it out with the packet. But I found it interesting. He had a red scarf on and a train cap. I wasn't quite sure why he was hanging out on my corner, but I did go down and talk to him.
Interesting, thank you. Counselor Rada?
Yeah, something that I think it came across to all of us. It was an email from a town resident concerned over the safety in her neighborhood, which is around the Woodbridge Road, Brookside. And I know, and we may have all heard this as we were out campaigning, that this is a concern around town in various areas, that people are not, they're disregarding stop signs, stop lights sometimes. Yeah, what am I trying to think of? Speed limits, and particularly comments that we've heard with folks who have children and young kids who may be in their yard or be on the sidewalk. And it's something that I've been thinking about for a while and just wanted to raise, and I don't know the appropriate channels, but thoughts that some of us might have other considerations and thoughts as well. Speed bumps, you're not, I know that we can't remedy the entire situation, but there may be certain locations in town where these might be beneficial. Keith, I know you may have something, some comments or some thoughts on this too, but I just thought I'd raise it because it came across our desks this week, and it might be something that we can discuss in the future. Or Keith, you can speak to where these concerns should go next.
If I may, I'll just comment that I did receive the same email that you received. And,
right.
I talked to the police, and we already have some activities going on out there that will evaluate what the complaints are. And I will say that the town of Newington historically has never supported speed bumps, whether they're permanent or temporary, because of the negative impacts that speed bumps can cause as well. But we really want to understand what we're looking at out there. So the police are doing some investigative type work right now, and I expect I'll get a report in a week or two on exactly what they have determined is going on with speed of vehicles and so forth.
Thanks. I think that I'm sure that's going to make residents feel much more comfortable knowing that their concerns are taken seriously as we know we take them seriously, but we want folks to understand that as well. So thank you.
Yeah.
And thanks to Chief Clark.
Yeah, there was another resident that reached out for a different street as well just a couple of weeks ago. So I'll talk to the town manager about that as well. I know he was included on that, but we'll touch base. There's this time of year, I think especially we see a spike in
Because kids are out playing,
summertime
summer
behavior.
Just quick, Keith, if we get these, whether they be emails or just while we're out in the street and somebody talks to us, we should direct them to you?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Anything that deals with anything dealing with public safety. If it's not an emergency, you're fine, going through me. If it is an emergency, then certainly go right to the chief or the police or the dispatcher.
And then just to complete loop, then you'll circle back to the resident.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So they're not expecting an answer from me. They'll get an answer from you.
Yeah. What might we do in the future? Any emails that we get copied on that you also get copied on, when I respond, I will copy you as well on.
So we can close the loop. We know there's an answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Kim, are you all set? I didn't take it down.
No, I one thing that came to mind, and this I guess is for Keith, any follow-up information on the firefighters who were injured at the training?
I will tell you that OSHA has been all week using, one of our conference rooms for their investigation and interviews. I have not heard the results of that at this point. And I may not, because it didn't deal with anyone that was injured within the town of Newington or an employee or anything. It was all people from out of town. So we may never hear officially the outcome of what OSHA finds, but if I do, certainly I will pass that along to you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I'll just, for a matter of record, I will let everyone know the council was copied on an email earlier today from Attorney Ancona, excuse me, indicating that he has confirmed that Mr. Chapman has established residency in the town of Newington with a lease commencement effective June 22nd, 2022. So if any of the counselors have any questions, you can certainly contact the town attorney directly. I'm not involved in verification at all. He verified that and sent it out to us today. All right. Okay. With that, we are on to informational items. We have tonight in our packet 2 items, one which we already covered with the town manager's report, which is the Town Hall Summer Hours Pilot Program. It's up on the screen for a quick review. We've discussed this earlier. Hours will be extended a little bit later on Tuesday evenings to help accommodate public need. And then on Friday afternoons, they'll be closing early at noon. And then the second one is the Parks and Recreation Extravaganza event information. It's in our packet. You'll see the flyer up on the big screen, so to speak. The events begin on Wednesday, July 13th, and then end on Saturday, July 16th with the fireworks presentation at 9:30 p.m. And it is action-packed with tons of events each and every one of those days. So I urge everyone to take a look at what's on there, what interests you, and hopefully I'll see everyone there. All right.
And it'll be the hottest day of the year on the 16th.
Any comment or questions or anything, counselors?
Date for the fireworks?
There usually is a rain date, but I am not aware of it at this point. Mr. DeMayo, are you there? He may have stepped away.
Yes, it's on Sunday. It keeps going Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And no other council comment? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone that the dog park will be opening up at 10 a.m. on Friday, And it is imperative that if you bring your dog, you must have a license, proof of rabies shots. You must follow the rules. If you violate the rules, you will be asked to leave and you won't be allowed back in. There will be new parking standards along John Stewart Drive, which will allow 2-hour parking on the north side of John Stewart and no parking on the south side of John Stewart. So that's a big change. And it will be only open from sunrise to sunset. And everyone's expected to clean up after themselves. There'll be containers there for disposal of the bags, but if your dog has to go, then we expect you to be picking up after your dog. You know, we're going to be pretty tough about this because we want to have this dog park be a welcome addition to all of people visiting in the center of town area. So, and we really want to thank Hartford Healthcare for allowing us to use their property for a very low cost per year. So it should be a real benefit to the center of town and to the dog owners that we have in town and those that visit. So thank you.
Excellent, thank you. I'll tell you, I went to the dentist today and I go to a dentist in Cheshire and the hygienist there is from Newington. And she was saying she's so excited about the dog park. So it's out there, people are aware, and I'm anxious to see kind of, you know, who takes advantage of it and how well it goes. I'm really excited about it. So
Kimber seemed very excited.
all right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Mankey, seconded by Counselor Camillo. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We stand adjourned at 9:40 p.m. Thank you, everyone.